Two, one. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Draw and Talk. It's your boy Tyler, and today we are going to be talking about Writers vs. Artists, the sequel, round two. I have on an awesome creator. Her name is Cassie, and I didn't address we didn't address some of the points that she wanted us to address in the last episode of this writer versus artist debate. So I brought her on, and we're going to be talking about that. But before we do that, guys, I want to just give a quick shout out to the Handyman, guys. The Handyman is a comic currently on Indiegogo. It's got 26 days left. This is the Mexican John Wick meets Home Depot. He gets all of his weapons at Home Depot. You can get in at like $5 and get the digital copy. And if you want a physical copy, you can get in at $15. The art is by Brad Ashworth, Pencil for Life. He's been on the show a bunch. We were actually, I was on his show last night, and we were talking with a bunch of people who live in Juarez, where this story takes place. And they were telling us like crazy stuff about like what they have to live through with like the cartels, the drug lords, it's just crazy the stuff that they go through out there. So if you're interested in backing this comic, I'll put the link out in the description, and then also put it in the chat for you guys. So sweet. And real quick, guys, so in the chat, we have Allie in the house. We have Itchy5. We have Coffee. How you doing, Coffee? We have Mistress Manga. Alan Ellsworth. How you doing, bro? We got my boy Justin. And and anyone else who is watching, if you want to pop in the chat and say hi, we would freaking love that. So without further ado, let's bring on Cassie. Cassie, how you doing today?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. That's awesome. So, guys, Cassie has some things that she wants to address because we didn't do it good in the last episode. So, Cassie, first tell us who you are and what you do in terms of like art and whatnot.
Okay, well, I am a freelance artist. I've been freelancing for about 14 years. I've done anything from animation, concept art, web comics. I actually did web comics for a Fortune 500 company just about 2 years ago, which is actually what got me into comics. I've been doing art my whole life, kind of like most artists talk about writing most of my life. And yeah, started comic at 16 and then got into animation. So I'm kind of coming back full term. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. So Cassie, what are some things then that we didn't bring up that you want us to address for this episode?
Well, not to call it clickbait, but there was some things in there that really drove me to the video, and it was, writers versus artists, who does more work, who deserves more money, and I really was hoping to hear some points, and then it kind of went more towards royalties, and so I kind of wanted to talk about those two things.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe I can get your point of view first. Who do you think ultimately does more work when it comes to making a comic?
Well, that's where it gets tricky. So, I have like pretty much 5 different points. And it's going to go back and forth. But like, okay, so for instance, everybody like as an artist knows to make one page, it could take up to 10 hours. As a writer, you write a paragraph, it could take you about 15 minutes. So, in that I'd say, okay, well, the artist, all right. But it doesn't just end there. When it comes to like untimable work, like, when you set a stopwatch, you get on the computer and you're working on the computer as an artist, or you're drawing, you can set a stopwatch to that. But as a writer, you are writing all day. You could be working a second job, and just you're mowing over your story in your head, and you're working, and you go back and change things with your experience. And it's really hard to put that in a time frame when an artist has to sit down to draw, but a writer can write all day without having to sit down.
For sure.
And then they can start the time.
Well, yeah, like with that, you know, for example, I drew this page and I wanted to time myself, like how long is it going to take me to draw this page? And you know, I hit a timer, I did it, and I was like, okay, this is how long it took me to draw the page. However, what I didn't take into account was the fact that I was thinking about how I was going to draw this page for like 3 days, and I was writing it out, and I was doing some research, and that is it's considered ancillary time in the business world, where it's like how, you know, you coming up and thinking about this idea takes a lot. You know, you could come as a writer, you could come up with an idea for like 5 days, and then you're like, okay, I finally got it, and then you write it down. It takes you 15 minutes, and sometimes we don't take into account those 5 hours, those 5 days of pre-thought, or like the research that goes involved. I mean, yes, it takes like 5 minutes to say, yeah, they used, you know, and gosh, I don't even know guns. They used, gosh, dang it. They used a shotgun, whatever, a certain type of shotgun. And then that took like 2 seconds to write, but the research done in, you know, why that shotgun needed to be used, how it's used properly, that stuff is never really taken accounted for when with writers. Gosh dang, I'm so pissed off, guys. I didn't know what any guns were for like 5 seconds there.
Well, and you know, and I guess like my third point would be that I'm not talking about like concepting, because like artists have to concept too. So I was really talking about like when you're thinking about your story and you're going, okay, well, should she do this? Or then personality, no, that conflicts. You know, you're constantly thinking through it because you're writing it. And, you know, like I said, like I have a story that I was working on from 16 and I keep rewriting it. Like, how could I even begin to time that? There's no way that I can time that. No. And like, okay, so every time I do art, I have to start over. I mean, it's not like I can build off that, but with writing, I can build off these stories. Like I set a foundation and then I can build on them and build on them. So like, how are you supposed to time that? There's like, it's near to impossible to time that.
Sure.
So I mean, yeah. So I mean, I got to say like in that, okay, well, writers. So no, I just gave one to artists. Now I'm giving one to writers.
So what's the tiebreaker?
Oh, well, that's just it. So I'm coming into refining talent and growth. Well, you know, we all have to refine our talents. We have to work on our skills. You know, like as artists, we're constantly having to draw to get better. Writers, we have to write to get better. And so again, like that's a lot of time and a lot of work, a lot of effort and fine-tuning things. And so again, I think that's equal. And then, so I come into quality because I think that's really important. Like different artists and different writers have different quality. And, you know, it takes different time and cost comes in. And it's, again, it's hard to say, okay, well, this person's an amazing writer. You know, it takes them X amount of time. Well, this person isn't so good at it, but they can come up with some really good work if they put in a lot of effort. So it's really... So then that kind of plays into it too. So when I was talking about the other things, those things change it. So if you are a really good writer and you've been doing it for years, you're going to be faster than somebody that's coming in, or the same with art. So it's so subjective, and, you know, it's subjective. So there's no real clear winner, to be honest. Like, I really think it's equal. They're so different, but they're so alike, and they merge together so beautifully. But there really isn't a winner here. I mean, there isn't a clear winner.
Well, I like that you said that, like, because that's so true. That ultimately there isn't a winner. It's a tie. The writer does just as much work as the artist. But where this gets tricky, however, is when there's money in play, because that's where this whole discussion gets messy, because if you say, yeah, writers, you know, you guys do just as much work as artists, then the writers go, okay, sweet. Why am I paying you then? Like, why am I paying you to do this? And that's where it ultimately gets super tricky, and that's where there's a lot of fighting within the indie comics community, and ultimately, like, it's never going to stop. Like, people are always going to have these things. What do you feel about that with the whole money situation?
No, thanks. That was a great segue, because that was actually where I wanted to go now, is, you know, who should get paid more. So, now we've decided, okay, it's about 50-50 work, right? Well, here where it comes in the tricky part. Honestly, I think whoever wants to keep the copyright is the one that needs to be paying. Because, when it comes down to it, an artist, they want to keep their copyright. A writer wants to keep their copyright. If you want to keep the copyright, pay someone. Because you're paying them out of that. You're paying them to make your characters and sign away their copyright. And that's how I feel about it. So when I'm flat rated as an artist, I don't expect royalties because it's their characters, it's their stuff. I signed away those and they don't belong to me anymore. Just like if I was an artist trying to hire a writer and they're signing away those characters they're creating for me. And so I think that's the way, like, I would define it. Like, okay, well, why am I paying you? Well, you're paying me because I'm giving you your full copyright. And maybe people would think that's different. I don't know.
So what about this? Would you, and we'll get to I'm going to get to the chat soon after this, guys. So if you have any questions or comments, I will be reading them soon. But what would you think about this? And this was what I was trying to get at in the last episode was, would you as an artist, let's say I'm the writer and I say, hey, Cassie, your page rate is $100. I can't do that. What I can do is I can do $80 and then you can keep like some of the copyright so that you get royalties in the end. Would you do something like that?
Well, that's where it gets kind of sticky because, when we're talking about copyright or we're talking about royalties, are we talking about royalties on the comic #1 that I'm doing, or are we talking about royalties infinitely throughout the whole series? And that's where things start getting interesting. So as me, like, I will never do work unless there's a contract. And the reason why I haven't done a whole lot of comics and collaborations is because in the contract phase, we disagree. And I think that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Like, if we disagree, we should get it out in the beginning before anyone starts work. Get the non-disclosures up, get the contracts up. If you have disagreements there, don't even share the story with somebody unless you can come to an understanding. I don't know if I answered your question though. Do you want
what stuff do you guys typically disagree then with in the contract, if you don't mind me asking? Well, is it the royalties? Is it the payment, like the page rate?
A lot of since I understand that, a lot of writers, since they can't draw themselves, they're hiring an artist. I try to I try to do like a 50-50 kind of thing. Like, okay, we'll just split royalties after printing costs. I'm talking about like after printing costs, but not writing and not artwork costs. But in the end, a lot of the people that I've tried to work with in the past, they want me to take 30% and they get 70%.
Really? So is that after your page rate?
No page rate.
So just a collab.
Just a collaboration.
Holy crap! And they're demanding 70%.
Well, and I've been told by several people that art doesn't matter. Art doesn't matter. It's all about the writing, and it's so untrue because I've had discussions with people and say, what does a client want? A first-time reader, like, what do they want? What do your audience want? Well, the first thing they see when they see your comic is your art. They really buy it because of the art, but the story is what keeps them buying it. So it's equal. If you want somebody to pick up your comic for the first time, the art has to drive them in, but the story has to hook them. You have a horrible story.
70-30 though?
I know, and I guess that's why I didn't work with them.
So no, yeah, well, here's the thing. I have done collaborations before, and if anything, I've done 50-50 before. But if anything, I ask, okay, I want 60-40. But that's where it gets tricky because it goes, why do you deserve 60-40? And then I say, well, I did most of the work. And then they go, well, I've done a ton of work that you haven't even seen besides just writing the script. And so that's where it gets tricky. But honestly, though, if you're working, if you guys are both working, quote unquote, for free, 50-50 is what's ultimately fair and moral. Gosh dang it. I don't know who these people are, but get them off the indie comic scene. Jeez. They probably haven't. Here's the thing, though. They probably haven't made a comic themselves. They probably haven't even done one yet.
Well, and I guess like I have a strange point of view because I'm a writer and I'm an artist. So I know how much goes into writing and I know how much goes into being doing art. And honestly, like I'd say that art, I think maybe it's just because writing comes easier to me. I think that art is more difficult because you have to put what you write into images and you have to tell the story through those images. And you might have to rewrite, I mean, redraw a scene or even rewrite a scene. I mean, when I was doing the engineers comics, the web comics, they have no sense of humor. I hope they're not watching.
No, you're good. You're probably good.
They don't really they didn't really have a sense of humor. It was really hard because it was a 3-panel comic and it had to be funny and there had to be a punchline. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, this needs to be rewritten. And I did my best to try to keep it in the vein that they wanted with the joke that they wanted. And thank goodness I was a writer at that point. But I didn't charge them for that time, and I kind of think that I undercharged because of that, because I was doing a lot of writing, which kind of happens with a lot of my art. Even in animation, I'm always helping the writers.
Well, yeah, because a lot, yeah, I totally agree, and I feel like I do the same thing with any client I do, where I go, where you and I are pretty experienced on, and then you're probably 1,000 times more experienced than me, but where they, they write something and you go, okay, that's good and all, but we're gonna have to do it this way. I've thought about it for you. I'm gonna help it. It's gonna be a little extra work for me, but it's okay. Like when a writer says, the person grabs the sword and then they swing it at the person, then jump. You go, okay, that's 3 different actions, bro. I know that you said only 1 panel, but I just theoretically has to be 3 panels in practice. I want to get to the chat real quick and read some of this stuff. We have Mason Eastley says, "Sorry, but writing a 22-page script is not as much work as drawing a 22-page comic book." And Mason, I absolutely agree. What Cassie and I though came to an understanding though is that writing that 22-page comic might not have taken as long as it does to draw the 22 pages. However, there's a lot of time spent not just writing, but thinking about it, choreographing these scenes in your head, creating these characters, these concepts, creating these relationships, these storylines. And once you've thought about all that, that could take weeks or months or even years. And then you finally sit down and you write your story. And that's what we were talking about, where there is so much work in writing, just, typing it out. Yeah, isn't that hard.
And if I may add on that point too, like, I have timelines, like where characters overlap. As a writer, if you are a good writer, you will have stuff that no one sees. You have a huge amount of stuff that nobody sees, timelines, when they were born, where they were born, why they act this way, how they were raised. And you have these in-depth characters that have these pasts and they collide with these other personalities and they write themselves. So yes, you see the 22 pages, but you don't see the timelines. You don't see these in-depth characters that have been thoroughly thought through to the point where they are their own characters. Where when you put them in a story, sometimes they fight back. And then you have a different ending than you even thought. If you're a good writer, you will have all those things. So again, it matters on the quality of your writer.
For sure. No, for sure. We have Travis Gibb in the house. Travis, how you doing, bro? And he says, I think 50-50 or 70-30. I think, though, it depends. I think this is important. He says, on what the person is bringing to the table. So, if you as a writer are demanding 70-30 for a collab, you have to ask, okay, what are you bringing to the table? And the artist's like, well, I'm just bringing the art. And then the writer can say, well, I'm bringing in my marketing experience. I'm going to be the one who's selling this comic, who's bringing in the money for us so that we can split. So that I can get down with. Mason says he doesn't agree with our last point. Yeah.
If I may add on that before we change this.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, darn it. Oh my gosh, I lost it.
Oh no.
Okay, well, what were you saying right before?
Hold on, yeah, we'll get back to this. On what are you bringing to the table to warrant how much you get on royalties?
Well, and the people, in their defense, the 70/30 people told me that they had Dark Horse waiting in the rains. They were waiting for them. You know how many times I've heard that? You know, I've worked on collaborations, you know, for things people say Cartoon Network's watching, you know, all I have to do is bring them to this awesome animation. All I have to do is bring, you know, Dark Horse, the awesome, you know, comic that they're waiting for with illustrations. So that's why I want 70/30. I ended up signing that contract. I am so glad that it fell through and we ended up not working together because I was so gullible. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Dark Horse, Dark Horse. Oh my gosh. And it's a line ultimately. I mean, unless he wants to share that contact, but he didn't want to share it. So
yeah, you do have to bring yourself to the table. Bring that to the table as well. So Mason says, I can't agree, Tyler. Bendis, for example, is writing multiple comics at once. I can't think of a single artist working on the big two who can draw more than 2 comics in a month. I absolutely agree. I know one artist, it's Brian Hitch, but he does like 1 full monthly and he does like 5 pages here and there for another project. And I think, though, with Bendis, if you look at Bendis, his work currently is pretty crappy, in my opinion. But if you look at someone like Jeff Lemire, and anytime Jeff Lemire has an article written or a podcast, I listen to it. What Jeff Lemire does is he'll spend, if he's working on like X-Men, for example, when he was doing his X-Men run, he would spend a month or two, and he was writing just the X-Men comics. And he would write like 6 or 7 in 2 months, which I agree. An artist cannot draw 6 or 7 issues in 2 months. It's not possible. But then after that, while he's writing this, he's also thinking about his other stories while he's writing this. But I do agree with you, Mason, that it is, when it comes to like that kind of workload, you're absolutely right. An artist cannot work on for the most part, one project for the big two or professionally. I don't know. What do you think about that, Cassie?
Well, my thought on that is actually quality suffers. I have taken on more than I can chew several times as far as art. Oh, sorry, my cat.
Oh, that's cool.
As far as cat. Hello. As far as artwork, taken on too many projects. And yes, I might be able to work on more than one comic all at once. Not the kind that they're talking about. I'm talking about web comics, which is a lot easier. But I can work on it, but then work starts to suffer. Kind of like how you said that his writing is suffering. I mean, it's a little less obvious in artwork versus writing, in my opinion. But I mean, has anyone ever watched a movie and like it's really good, and then the end of the story just freaking blows and it just ruins the whole thing? I mean, could you imagine that writer probably took on another project that they got more passionate about, just like an artist, and it just didn't cut it?
It's very true. And I actually think that writers should do less books so that they can, give out. Like if you look at someone like Scott Snyder or like Jeff Lemire or, Bendis, they're working on like 4 or 5 books at a time. And I can probably say that I only like maybe 1, maybe out of those 5, whereas I'd rather maybe have them just do 1 or 2, and I like both of them. That's just me personally. And then, Travis Gibbs says lots of books come out twice a month these days, so they're drawing 2 books. They're drawing 2 books a month. Yeah, with that double shipping schedule, like currently right now, like if David Finch was doing 5 issues during his 5 issues that he does, the artist is already like working. Like they're so ahead of schedule. I got some other things on the chat. Okay, so we got Lakem Amir. How you doing, bro? And he says, I just joined the chat, but I've yet to hear the separate jobs that people do: penciler, inker, or colorist. That's hard because right now you and I are just talking about writers and artists, because we can do both. Like when I take on a job, I typically say, okay, listen, dude or lady, I can do pencils, inks, colors, and lettering. Just let me do all the jobs. It keeps it just between us two. And I'm sure you're the same.
I am.
But okay, awesome. But now there are some people, there's some artists who specialize just, I'm a penciler. And then with that, then you have to hire someone who can ink, then color and letter. How are their royalties ultimately split up and payment? Which is why I feel like you should just pay people, and then you just and then just the flat rate, and then you can and then you can keep the contract and make your money after the. Otherwise, it's just like you're doing the math. Okay, we made this much amount of sales. You get this amount. You get this amount. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I totally agree with that. There was a point though that I wanted to make on the last person's comment.
I'll go for it.
Okay, so what did he say? If you could summarize, just
was it the lots of books coming out twice a month?
Yes. Okay, that's all about talent and skill. The more you do, the faster you are. That's with writing and with art. So if you're going, well, this is really awesome art. Well, I get faster. I can do an animation in like 10 days if I have good working hours. That's 8 hours a day. So that's 80 hours. I can do a 2-minute animation. I didn't used to be able to do that. So you get faster with repetition.
For sure.
So yeah. So, okay, I'm done.
No, but that's true because we had someone like Brian Hitch, and I was listening to a podcast with him. He's currently doing Hawkman right now for DC, but he's doing another project soon after issue 12. But he was saying that when he was working at Marvel, he was constantly late for his books because he just could not draw a 22-page book in a month. But now, if you follow him on Twitter, he goes, "I just penciled 10 pages this week." And you're like, holy crap. And he just goes, I've just learned how to get quicker. But with also these double shipped books, you'll notice that no artist on these double shipped books for like DC, for example, they never stay on for more than four or five issues until another artist steps in for another 4 or 5 issues. And while that new artist is doing those 4 or 5 issues, the older artist is working on their next 4 or 5 issues. They're very scheduled. It's not possible for freaking David Finch to do. He takes forever to just do a monthly book. There's no way that he's doing 2 books a month. So, and then let's see. Travis says royalties only go to people who create. The creator is the people who came up with the pre-work for comic. Letterer, colorist, and inks come in later. Interesting. How do you feel about that then?
Actually, I don't really have an opinion about that because I don't know.
Never thought about it.
I mean, with the concept artist, yeah, they're concepting the style of the comic, not just the characters, but the whole style and the feel of the comic. So I do understand that but the colorist also does a little bit of that, but you can't copyright color, nor can you copyright inking. So I guess I could see that being a thing.
I got you on that. Ultimately though, I think for me as a creator is for me, the reason why I don't like working on just like a royalty split is the unfortunate math that's involved. So for example, if I'm getting paid at like I'm just gonna get my calculator out, guys. Let's say I make $100 per page. Okay, $100, and I do a 22-page comic. Okay, 22-page comic. The writer then to break even has to sell $2,200 worth of comics. Let's say that comic is $3. They have to sell then 733 copies of that comic. Now that's totally doable. However, most of us in the indie comic book scene don't have 733 dedicated people waiting for us to buy it. And that's good. That could take anywhere from like 5 to 7 years of constantly going to cons, constantly selling online. And that's just doing this one issue. We're not even talking about issues 2, 3, and 4. And so for me to say, I'll get a 50-50 split, ultimately none of us are really going to make money at that. But here's the thing is when I do work on a comic and I do a flat rate, I tell the writer, I go, hey, listen, we're going to, thank you so much for paying me. I'm going to draw your book. Afterwards, I am going to do like my damnedest to make sure that you get that money back. I'm going to help you with your Kickstarter. I'm going to help you with your Indiegogo. We're going to help you get like hopefully at least more than half of your money back from this thing. And for me personally, I believe that that the writer shouldn't give you royalties until they're either break even or after they break even and they've made a little money themselves, and after that royalties can be discussed afterwards. But ultimately, you paid me and I can leave. I'm fine with leaving, and then you after that make the money. You go drive off in the sunset because I did my work, and now your job is to sell it.
Well, and not to bring up like other artist industries, but since I've been an artist in several different industries, game industry, animation industry, all of them are pretty much the same. I mean, you're flat rated out and then you're done. They paid you, and then you can't expect them to pay you more after they start making money. I mean, I made a game app for somebody, and they paid me to do the assets and stuff, and I did a little bit of promotion on my end, but nothing that cost me money. But in the end, they're doing all the marketing work. So they're always going to be accruing costs. They're always going to be. Like, how are they selling this? They have to. So
yeah, and it's ultimately like not fair for as a writer. It's ultimately just not fair for them to have to take all these costs. That's why also my rate, I tell them my rate, but then I have like a little like flex area where I can go, and then I want to help them make I've been working on Undead Row for West Nadell for a year. And I've got like 40 more pages to go on that. I'm going to, when that Indiegogo happens, I'm going to be promoting the crap out of that book for 6 months to help them make that money back, and to ultimately help them make money further. Zoom in Comics says, "Oh man, sometimes it's not about the money. I take pride in my art." Absolutely, I totally agree. However, for someone like me, I do have a day job. I have a wife. We have bills. I have bills. I've got to live. And so I do take pride in my art. I'm trying to make sure that each page is the best page I could do. But sometimes, I've done work. I do work for free every now and then. But I sometimes, I have to survive. We have to live. You have to pay your cat. You got to feed your cat.
Yep. Well, and exactly. I have a family too. And, I'm a full-time studio worker. So my art, I do my art, my writing, everything like that. And, I do graphic design. So that's how I make my money. So if I don't get paid, how am I supposed to survive? And I guess that's the ultimate thing. And that's why you pay an artist, because you can write while you're working your second job. I can't draw while I'm working my second job. I can't animate while I'm working my second job. That's the difficult part. You still have to sit down and type it, but I guess that's why everybody tends to focus on the artist as doing more work or whatever. It's because they know that they have to sit down and do it, where a writer can write anywhere, and then they have to sit down and get their notes down.
Yeah, so I could be at work. I could be at my day job. I could be at my day job thinking about my story. When I get home, I'm like, sweet, an hour, type it up. Whereas when I get home from my day job, I then have to sit down at a desk for, hopefully, maybe 3 or 4 hours I'll get at night. And that, maybe I can get a page done then. Maybe I only get half a page done. I have to go the next day. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time spent on such things. And yeah, it's hard and it's time consuming. But also with that though, I think we have to think about this as a business. If you, as a writer and as an artist, if you want to sell something, anything that you can sell, anything that needs to be sold to make money has to first be made, and to make it costs money. If I'm going to go sell some mugs, well, you can't just sell a mug. You have to go buy those mugs and then sell them. Oh, I'm going to sell food. Well, you got to go buy the ingredients for the food, make it, and then sell it. And so with that, if you want to sell something, to make money, you got to pay some money. And that's every business. There's no business that doesn't have you put in money at first, and that doesn't have you put money in first and then you get money back. You have to put money in to get money back.
Totally. And, even as an artist, we have like costs that people don't see. I mean, buying a Cintiq is not cheap. Buying art.
No way.
Not cheap. So we all have it. And so when somebody says, well, I'm paying for the publisher or I'm paying for this, why should I have to pay an artist? Well, they have costs too. I mean, we have costs on both ends. And, just because somebody bought a Cintiq, and they can use it through all these different projects, I mean, that could be a $2,000 machine. It's getting easier and easier for self-publishing, and the costs are going lower. I mean, I love that right now indie comics are so big because it's easier to print like a run of 10 than it has ever been. You don't have to go and do a run of 500. But I'm kind of getting off subject a little bit. But what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that we all have costs, and marketing costs is part of it too. But as artists, it's equal again in my mind on the costs that go into it.
No, for sure. I mean, I was working with an artist. I still am. They're currently MIA, but I know every time they go MIA, they always come back. They go, hey, I drew this new page. I'm like, sweet. I don't know where you've been for the past like 2 months, but I'm glad you're alive. I know. It's a working project, I already paid for the entire book. But it was a new artist, and he showed me some of his pencil work, and he said I could do this faster digitally. And I went, okay. But then his tablet broke. And he sent me all these pictures. We had a Skype conversation. I was like, oh dang, I'm so sorry. And I was like, okay, I will buy you this really cheap drawing tablet. It's like $600. And here's the $600. Get yourself that drawing tablet. That's going to count, however, on this comic that we're making. So you might think you're working for free, but you're not. You're working on the thing that I just bought you. Travis, and I see in the chat that there's people talking about marketing. Who's better at marketing, writers or artists? I would, and Travis says, Mason's saying that artists are really good at marketing themselves. Travis says maybe you haven't seen artists. A lot of them are really bad at marketing themselves. What do you feel about this? Because I actually am, I'm half and half, because I see someone like Gabriel Piccolo, who is an independent artist, and he marketed himself great on Instagram, and now his Indiegogo has like over $400,000. In like a week. So for that, you can say he markets himself. But then I see a ton of other artists on the indie scene who just are absolute crap in marketing themselves. They don't do a good job. Mostly it's the writers who are pushing these books that the artist has made. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, as an artist, and graphic designer, I think that I can make the marketing material, but I am not very good at marketing myself. I didn't even know about how everyone was flocking to Instagram until just a few months ago.
Oh no.
I have a Patreon. Nobody's on it because I just started it. I'm really behind on the trends. I'm really feeling a little dated. I am like 34 years old, and I am apparently missing the trends. So I got to get better about marketing myself. I am an artist, and I'd like to say, oh yeah, I can make this really awesome graphic design thing. And, I'm trying to sell things that I normally sell at Comic-Con, and I bought a store nobody knows exists on my site. So I'm not really the one to ask because I am so bad at marketing.
Well, no, but maybe that answers the question, because I feel like I'm half and half with my marketing. But ultimately, though, what people have to realize is marketing takes time. Marketing takes time, and I think the reason why writers will say artists are bad at marketing is because the artist, while the writer is marketing, the artist is drawing what's being marketed, I think. And for me, to market myself, like for example, on Instagram, you guys go to Instagram at Draw and Talk. I started creating like art memes. And they have been getting thousands of views, hundreds of likes. No one's following me though, so I'm kind of pissed off about that. But those people are like, that was good, and they see it. But those memes that I made, they took a couple hours. Like it wasn't just like, oh, I created content to market myself for like a week. It took me like 5 hours last week to come up with all this content for last week, and then it's Monday now, and I don't have any new marketing content for this week, which means tomorrow I have to probably, on my lunch break, spend some time to create this week's. It's a whole lot of work. Marketing is its own thing. I mean, guys, I do marketing for a living. I do social media marketing for a living for a company, and I'm not very good at it. I hope my boss isn't watching.
Oh no.
He's like, he's fired.
No.
But I think ultimately everyone's bad at marketing. Marketing's hard.
Exactly. It's a completely different animal. I mean, I had to have a failed Kickstarter to figure out what you need to do. You need to market yourself for up to a year to 6 months and have X amount of followers before you can even put a Kickstarter up. You know, this is stuff I didn't know. Like, I did a PR release, you know, for the first time in 2012 when I had my Kickstarter. You know, I guess like I don't give myself enough credit. I do some marketing stuff. I know about SEO. I put it in my website, you know, things like that. But you know, it's a whole new thing that you have to teach yourself, and that's why so many people flock to going to marketing companies. But I'm a little hard-headed, and I will eventually learn how to market.
Well, it's one of those things where I'm sure that the greatest artist is out there, and we have no idea who they are because they're not good at marketing themselves.
Right.
There's probably like the legend guys, the GOAT is out there somewhere, and we have no idea who they are because they don't know they don't know how to use their phone. They're still on a flip phone. So I agree, but you know, marketing's hard for everyone. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. And it's just difficult. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. I mean, I'm going to say I'm not very good at marketing myself, but I try to at least put myself out there. You know, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter on the daily. I'm doing, you know, I do these YouTube videos, you know, 2-3 times a week. On Sunday, I recorded 3 YouTube videos for like sometime in April. It's just like putting yourself out there. And then, you know, hopefully you get lucky. Hopefully you get lucky. Maybe that one meme I make will go viral, and then everyone will see the past content that you made. You know, they say that it takes 10 years of hard work to become a overnight success. People never see the hard work that you do. But you just got to put yourself out there. And writers and artists, I mean, that's just not even, it's not even a competition who does more marketing, who sucks at it. It's just everyone sucks at it, and everyone needs to do better.
Well, and on that note, I'd like to add too, like, even if you're doing free work, put your best foot forward. Always. Don't go, you know, I'm not getting paid enough, so I'm going to do a crappy job. Because, you know, your crappy work will be floating out there and it might just haunt you later. Or, you know, you do really, really good work on this and then you just get better. You know, the more that you push yourself as an artist or a writer, the more you push yourself, the better you will become. And then it's just going to keep going. And, you know, I've been working on my studio since 2011. And, you know, I never thought that I'd get to where I am now. You know, nobody knows that I'm an animation company still. But, you know, I'm getting there. And now I'm trying to change gears because I've got all these stories and all of these things that are mine. And I'm going more towards my stuff and less client work. So we'll see what happens. But, you know, don't ever put out crap work. And I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm working for free, working for my own stuff. Always put passion in. If you love it, then do your best. Always.
Mm-hmm. That's a big leap as well, because I always say this on the show, and I always say it to myself, and I say it to my wife, where I'm just like, I'm not going to take any more client work. I'm going to do my own thing. And the scary part of that is that I am then at that point working for free on my own stuff with the hope that I'll be able to get some money afterwards. And I think that fear, once I can get over that fear, I'll be able to take myself to a new level. They say that you don't if you feel uncomfortable, you're progressing. I'm in a very comfortable place right now, Cassie, where I have client work. I've got client work after my client work, and I've got client work after those 2 client works. And I keep scheduling them because I'm scared to not have client work. Yeah. But maybe though, I need to do what you're doing maybe I need to do what you're doing, because you might level up. You might progress hard.
I'm not quite there.
Almost.
April was my big step. I am actually just finishing up a client. I just finished up to send him the invoice. He paid me. And now I am looking at making the jump, especially since I talked to my local I talked to the workforce locally here and found out that I could get some interns and they would pay them. So I'm looking to make a huge leap here soon, and I'm going to be working entirely for free, but these interns will be paid. So I'm going to make a huge leap. I've got comic number 2 of War Dreams coming out. I've got my new children's book that's supposed to release also in October, Imagining Monsters, and I have a web series that's animated, Death by Zombie, that's coming out this year as well. I'm working on the first episode. So this is a huge leap. It is a huge leap. And that's why I made a Patreon, and I'm like, please make this the right decision, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's super exciting stuff, though. And when those things come out, Cassie, I hope that you message me and we can get you on the show and we can talk about those things and like promote them as well.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Mighty Geek is talking about fan art, and he says, Tyler, how many times have you drawn an existing character? Bruh, I draw Batman on the daily. Fan art, though, is an interesting subject. If Mason's still watching, he had a lovely conversation about fan art one day. We're not going to bring that up in here. But, and by the way, Mason, I'm on your side. But with fan art, I do agree that fan art can get picked up, but it's one of those you got to get lucky. And you also have to make your fan art look good. People are like, yeah, that's Batman. Or yeah, that's Starfire and Raven. But what makes it different? And also people love to see their characters in swimsuits. So maybe I got to do that. I don't know. Do you do a lot of fan art?
I have a really strange opinion about this. When I used to do a lot of fan art. Don't make fun of me. I used to draw a lot of Dragon Ball Z in high school.
That's awesome. No one's going to make fun of you here.
All my art looked like Dragon Ball Z for the longest time. But anyway, when I went to college, they were really against fan art. It's copywritten. You don't do that. Well, it's about the time that the circuit came out with, Comic-Con, and fan art became really popular. But I was working in a print shop, and they're like, it's a no-no to print fan art. So I'd have to turn people away and say, sorry, I can't print it. And I'd point at the door.
Oh, no.
And so I didn't do any fan art after that. I completely stopped until about last year or the year.
Oh, Mason, you hear that?
And yeah, I started doing fan art because I started doing Comic-Con, and I sucked at it. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I was drawing the characters in my style, and I had to do a lot of research. And this is going to sound really stupid. I open up my Pinterest, and I'm just tagging all these fan arts I like. And it took me a while to figure out what they were doing and what I was doing wrong.
So what were you doing? What were you doing, and what were you doing wrong?
They were taking exact scenes from, fan art. They were taking exact scenes and telling a story. Like, maybe you're shipping 2 characters together that like people long to be together, or 2 that like, ew, like some people are putting the 2 brothers from Supernatural together and they do really well. But the point is that they're telling a beautiful story. Some of them have background, some of them don't. And what I was doing is I was trying to nail the characters, but I was losing that essence of the storytelling.
Gotcha.
So this year I'm going to be focusing on that. So
well, that's interesting that you say that, because, and guys, I'm sorry that I keep fanboying on this Gabriel Piccolo guy, and I'm gonna freaking bring up his Instagram real quick. Instagram.com. Let's see if I have his thing memorized. Piccolo. Oh my gosh, I'm so awesome.
Like Dragon Ball Z Piccolo?
Who knows? I'm gonna find a picture, guys, of his fan art. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up. Let me screen share this. All right, guys. So this is exactly what Cassie brought up. Okay, this is his Robin and Starfire fan art, except it's not just the 2 characters. It's a story. He's beaten up. Starfire's helping him with the first aid. There's the laptop. There's their McDonald's. They're just chilling. It's a story. It's not just these 2 characters. Similarly, where's my favorite one? There's really, guys, if you guys haven't checked Gabriel Piccolo out, he's freaking phenomenal. I'm losing it. Okay, so you have like right here, like the Teen Titans, and he drew them all, But what are they doing? Beast Boy's on the guitar. Cyborg is bringing up alcohol. These guys are not legally allowed to drink. Let's not promote that. But you get what I'm saying. It's not just a pinup. It's a story. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah. And, I guess like that's, it's part of, it's part of fan art, like bringing an essence or telling a story that is told in the background or isn't told, and bringing those characters into that element. And yeah, like don't draw a character on a white, piece of paper with no background, because man, they won't sell. I tried that. Don't do that. Also, don't try to make fan art that you think people would like, and just because you think it'll sell. Don't make fan art because of that. Make it because you enjoy it, because you're gonna, the story, the background, the character, and make it. So I'm gonna do tons of fan art this year that has to do with Steven Universe and Adventure Time and the Arrow. I know nobody cares about the Arrow, but I'm gonna be doing some fan art with Arrow. And man, Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man, totally doing that too.
We did care about Arrow at like the first like 2 seasons.
Yeah, I'm behind it.
Like this is my fan art. This is Batman, but it's Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Return of the Batman. Not as many likes as
really well.
Huh?
Mashups do really well.
Yeah, they do. And honestly, guys, like there's like here's my Raven, guys. It's pretty dead. She's pretty dead. There's no background. There's no really story. And I do agree with you on that. But then my memes kick off and people like that, but don't follow me. But yeah, I do agree. You need to, if you're gonna put your art out there in the world, make it, don't do it just for fan service. Don't do it just because, I hope people will like this. Do it because ultimately you are going to like that. Yeah.
And writers too, though. Writers, to bring them back into this, if you have just this story that you absolutely love and you want to pull pieces from it, take inspiration, but unless you're doing a fan fiction, like try to not do exactly that. Like tell a different story. But this really is coming from a conversation with someone else today. So you're probably watching and going, why? I'm sorry. Artists do the same thing. Writers do the same thing too. Like, they get stuck in fan art. And I guess like what I'm saying is like, take your inspirations, make your own art. Don't get stuck in fan art.
I know, I totally agree. And I think when I saw someone on a thread once, and they were saying, "Hey, Travis, see you, bro, love you." He said, he was like, "What stories do people like reading more?" And I was like, and I just wanted to chat. I just wanted to comment and just be like, "Listen, dude, like, don't write a story." Don't write a story that other people are gonna like. You need to like it first, blah, blah, blah. There's no passion in your writing. Oh my gosh, like get out of this for thread. I was gonna get way toxic. But don't be like, what's everyone like? Like, don't do what everyone likes. The people who crush it in the indie scene, the writing scene, the artist scene. Oh my gosh, my phone's going off. So unprofessional. Those people who crush it are the ones who break boundaries and do what they want to do. Look at Walking Dead, a black and white comic. No one thought it was going to be good. It was a zombie story. Everyone said that's stupid. No one likes zombie stories. And Robert Kirkman's like, hey, I'm going to do whatever I want. And then look at it now. I'm sure he could burn like a $20 bill. And by the time he like grabs a new one from his pocket, he already made like $100 after that. Like, but that was an original idea and he went for it.
Well, and that's what I'm actually worried about with jumping off in my studio, is that my style is not something people have seen. And it kind of worries me because it's not Marvel, and it's, I did a lot of animation. So it's more like cutesy, but super dark. And I'm not sure how people are going to handle it. So this is kind of a test. So that's why I'm kind of like, I have Death by Zombie, where these people are being brutally murdered and they're all cutesy looking characters. So we'll have to see how it goes. They're all big headed and.
But the nice thing about living in the 21st century is that you don't have to conform to a style. You can create a following on your own style. You can create your own following on your specific style. It might take some extra work, but people are seeing like, wow, I like this art. She's really going for it. I'm going to follow her. And you're going to create your fan base. The nice thing about the 21st century is when people are like, hey, do you know this person? I'm like, no. They go, oh, I can't believe you don't know that. Well, it's because they're famous in your little sector. You can make your own sector now. We're making a draw and talk sector right now. Can I get some thumbs up in the chat? What up, LP? We got LP in the house, by the way. So yeah, you can make your own sector here in the 21st century. It just takes, some work, some time, but there is enough pie for everyone to get a piece of it. Hopefully. Now, if everyone's trying to be an Instagram butt model, I don't know about that. I don't know if there's that many good butts in the world. But yeah. So yeah, ultimately, guys, I think Cassie and I think we had a really good conversation. And let's just try to, for those of you who are watching or just coming in, we're just going to squash this and nip this in the butt right now. So this is what we're going to say. And this is what Cassie ultimately enlightened the world with and our viewership is that who does the most work? Writers or artists? Cassie brought up a good point. Well, writers are constantly thinking about their projects. They're creating these characters. They're doing so much concept work. They're trying to figure out how the story goes. They're doing so many notes. And then we don't even see all that behind the scenes stuff. All we see is a 22-page script that they typed in probably like an hour or two. Whereas artists, they're sitting down and then they have to draw this for, 8 to 10 hours a day on these pages. So who does the most work? Well, it's probably equal in that point. It's probably equal. What we had a hard time though coming to an agreement though was the money aspect, and you that's between you, your artist, and the God that you believe in. It's up to you three to figure that agreement out. But I think you and I agreed that just doing a flat page rate is probably the safest for the creator. If you're the writer, just pay a flat page rate for everyone. You keep 100% of the royalties. If you want to split it afterwards, you guys can talk about that. But ultimately, just pay the flat page rate, and then after that, you just do your best to market it, get that money back, and after that, sail into the sunset with your work. I don't know, Cassie, do you have anything else you want to bring up that I missed?
No, I think that's good. I mean, one thing that I did say was, flat rates, page rates, royalties, the one thing I guess we didn't cover was the one where they have several artists in one book.
And that's hard. And I think we said that with royalties, that's almost impossible. It's like, okay, Inker gets 10%. I don't know.
What I'm talking about is when you have several different stories, what is that called? A combination, where you have a bunch of different artists working on one comic.
Like the penciler, the inker, the colorist.
No, several different stories.
Arcs
is, the theme is robots, and then we take all these different people and then we shove it all together, and then we make it.
And like an anthology.
Yes, like an anthology. The one thing that I think we didn't cover was with that. That one's really hard because you have all these different artists. Are you supposed to split the royalties? I actually think that you are. I think that if you have 5 artists, that each one should get, that should be a split of 5 for royalties. But, again, that's my opinion. But
anthologies are hard, by the way. Anthologies, in my opinion, are the fastest way to get a bunch of creators to make a book is anthology. The hardest way, however, though, to make money off of that, make money in comics, I think, is an anthology. Because it just depends. If we ever do a draw and talk anthology, this is what's gonna happen: is we're gonna have all the creators, and we're not gonna be able to pay anyone. You're gonna have to pay your own people. We're gonna make the anthology, and then I will give you the print file. We will compile it. I will give you the print file. And then after that, you can do whatever you want. You're now the copyright owner. You're a copyright owner. You can go to any printer you want. You can print 1,000 copies and sell them and keep doing that. And I think for me, that's fair because I've been in a ton of anthologies where they're like, okay, you get 2 books. Now, if you want more, you got to pay me more. And I'm like, well, flip, I did the work. You just made the book. Whereas if I had the print file and I know I only need to sell 100, I can just print 100. But if I need to sell more, I have that print file. And because they give me the 100% copyright access. That's my opinion.
Which I agree. Like, the print file is important. You know, if you're doing an anthology, I think you should give them the print file. Other people are like, oh, well, you know, with the anthology, they do the, okay, well, you know, after print costs, then you can sell it. But are they being are they being forthright with you? Are they being honest with you to say, okay, this is how much print cost was? Or are they making a little bit of a profit on this side? So that's why I do think that print cost would probably be the best way to go. You know, I mean, not print cost, but
you giving the file.
Yeah,
because ultimately, like, it's gonna be hard to sell it, and I've heard the argument where it's like, well, you know, person A, yeah, with that print file they sold 1,000, but I'm person B and I only sold 100. They made more money, but it's the same book, and it's just
getting your name out there. They're marketing for you. They're
exactly
getting your name out there.
Exactly. I 100% agree with that. So yeah, so guys, if we do a Draw and Talk anthology, which hopefully we'll do that maybe next year, once I have time to like figure out some things, that's what we're gonna do. We'll print off. I'll print off a copy. We'll give it to the backers. I'll give you each a copy, but then with your copy, I'll also give you a copy of the print file to do whatever you want. LP in the house, Larry says, the way I work is artists get the rate we agree on and then I own the rights. Larry, you're so late to this conversation, but we're really glad that you're here. Larry says lots of people will share ownership and things of that nature. I can't do that. And Larry is a super hard worker when it comes to indie comics, and I know he treats his artists fairly. Larry does a ton of work as a writer, where he's not just like creating these concepts and creating these stories, but he's also like, he's meeting with the artists every week. They do like a weekly meet where they go over the art, they go over the story, they go over the process, the timeline. I mean, no, he's not getting paid for that, but he's putting in that effort to do it. So yeah, but yeah, guys, and anthologies are a good way, and just, you know, make sure that things go right. Guys, this is a tricky subject. But I think Cassie and I nipped it in the butt. I think we nailed it. But ultimately, when it comes, you know, we just got to work together. If you want to make comics, you know, we all have to put some money in. You know, artists got to put some money in to get pen and paper, a Cintiq, a drawing tablet, a computer. All those stuff costs a lot of money. You know, writers, you know, you got to pay an artist, or, you know, find someone who do a 50-50 split. And if you want to do that 70-30, like Cassie said, which still blows my mind that a writer would ask 70-30, that blows my mind. You better have a freaking damn good reason why you deserve 70. You better have some serious skills, serious marketing skills that I can make some good money off that 30%. Cassie, people are asking where they can find your work. They want to check it out.
Okay, so it's deadonstudios.com, and that's my website. I also have a Facebook. If you look me up at Dead On Studios, there's no space in Dead On because I like to make it confusing for everybody. And then Cassie Gobo Draws on Facebook, and also War Dreams comic. So I've got tons. I'm sorry. I've got a Patreon, Dead On Studios. There's so many links.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm actually going through the site now. And guys, I put the link in the chat for you guys to check out her stuff. I'll also put the link in the description. And this is a very professional website. So
thanks.
That's super awesome. And your artwork looks great. I'm searching through it, guys. Yeah, I'm going to be checking this out, and I hope that you guys check this out after the show. And like I said, Cassie, if you have like a Kickstarter going down on Indiegogo, or you're like releasing a web series, hit me up. You hit me up. We'll get you on the show. We'll schedule a time on it, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what you're working on. We'll promote it. Because that's ultimately what I like about the show. The show is about making comics, about indie comics, it's about promoting other people, to show off their work to a bunch of people. That's my way of giving back to the community.
Thanks.
So, all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. We had a great episode. Writers versus Artists, the sequel. Zoom In Comics says, I love this channel. thanks. I love this channel too. And thank you, Zoom. You're awesome. I'm really glad that we started connecting on Facebook. Remember, if you're new to this channel, smash that subscribe button, smash that melee button as well. That's the thumbs up. I heard someone say that one day, not instead of like button, it's the melee button. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then guys, we weren't supposed to do a live show today, but we did. So on Wednesday, we're not going to have a show tomorrow, but on Wednesday, we have, let me grab my calendar. On Wednesday, I think we're going to have our boy Tank Ferret on the show. We're going to be talking about creating villains. Now, Tank has been working in the industry for a while, and he DM'd me and was like, yo, bro, I got some things about villains. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about, but we'll talk about what you want to talk about. And so we're going to have Tank on, and then we might have a Thursday or Friday show. I don't know. No, we're definitely not having a Friday show because I'm going to be in Arizona. My boy's getting married. And then Saturday, we might have a show. It's going to be really crappy. I'm probably going to do it like in my hotel room because I'm still going to be in Arizona. And then next week, Monday, we get back to your usually regular programmed Draw and Talk. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Cassie, thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem.
All right, guys. You guys have a good night. Be nice to each other. And also, frick, Brad's going to kill me. Did you guys know that this episode is brought to you by the Handyman? The stopping the bloodthirsty Castaneda cartel requires a fearless man with the right tools for the job. All right, I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't remember writing this cartel because I'm the writer. I don't remember putting that as the cartel's name. I don't think I would. I think Brad changed it. I need to talk with Brad because I wouldn't write something that I can't pronounce. So I'm gonna have to talk with Brad. But yeah, guys, this is the Mexican John Wick, and he gets all of his weapons from Home Depot, not Lowe's. Home Depot. We're sponsored by Home Depot. No, we're not. You can get this book at $5 digital copy. You can also get the physical book at $15. If you want an original page, you can right here, $300. And then if you want to die in the book, if you want to legit be one of the people that the Handyman destroys with a hammer or a nail gun or a screwdriver or whatever tools I thought of that day when I wrote the script, $200 gets you a death in the comic. And get this, guys, the first person who claimed this was Doug TenNapel, the creator of Earthworm Jim. We're gonna be killing Doug TenNapel, the creator of Earthworm Jim. Well, Brad is, because I'm not drawing this book. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching. You guys have a good rest of your night. And Ole 656, bruh, you just came in late, bruh. All right, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.